Hello everyone, good afternoon. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and I'm coming live to you today on Tuesday, June 18 with this week's scrapbooking challenge. And I am super excited to share these photos with you because they were actually taken 4 years ago in 2020. We took a family holiday to the Riverland during COVID. We were actually meant to be going to the United States to visit Kayla, who was going to be working at summer camp in Maine. And we were going to be taking Jai overseas to see his sister and spend some time with her. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we took a family holiday instead to the beautiful Riverland, and we had, honestly, probably one of the best family holidays that we've ever had. I was very surprised. Oh, Pauline, hi, how are you? Hi, Emily. Thanks so much for joining me live today. It's great to see you guys here. I am super excited to share this layout with you. Do these colors just not look amazing with these photos? Absolutely. There is Trudy. Hi, Trudy. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope everyone is having a great week. Now, this week's scrapbooking challenge actually incorporates a couple of different paper collections, but I want to talk about the pattern first and foremost that we are creating. So we are working with pattern number 5, which is in the Make It From Your Heart Volume 6 book, and you will find pattern number 5 on page 14. And if you were to do this pattern as a single page layout, as it's shown here in the book, you will get 5 photos on this particular layout. But what I have done is I've converted my layout to a double page spread. And what that has meant is that I've needed to cut everything that's in my cutting diagrams. I've actually had to cut it twice, okay? Because what you're going to do to convert it into a double page spread is you are going to replicate the pattern from the single page layout, and you will make it a mirror image to then convert it into a double page layout. So I have got my base paper. So my base paper is this gorgeous pattern paper from, this is actually a Stampin' Up! Designer Series paper pack. It's called Country Woods. And in fact, I created with this Designer Series paper pack last week's challenge. I'm going to turn it over so you can see the back of my layout here, because one of the things I like to do when I am using pattern paper as my base page is actually cut out the square on the inside of it, so I am not wasting my pattern paper. And so I'm actually going to demonstrate. I'm going to give you a tip on how you do this today. And all you need is your paper trimmer. So I'm actually going to be showing that to you today in the Technique Tuesday class. So this is what I've got left over with my paper, and I can use this now. This will be a 11 by 11 inch square, I think. Let me get my Versamat out. It should be, oh no, it's 10 by 10, sorry. So that's a 10 by 10 inch square. So I've got this pattern paper now to be able to use on another scrapbooking layout. So I'm going to share that tip with you today, because pattern paper looks great as your base page, but if I had covered that entire sheet of pattern paper with my cardstock, it really is a waste of paper, right? And pattern paper, it's just so pretty. It deserves to be shown, but we really needed to have cardstock in this middle section here, just to ground everything and just chill it out a little bit, right? Because there is obviously a lot of pattern paper here and through the bottom here as well, and on the edges here. So we don't want that to look too busy. So I've used pattern paper here as my base. I've then used some cardstock, 2 sheets of Glacier cardstock to cut out the large square. And that's at 11.5 by 11.5 inches. And I have sandpaper distressed the Glacier cardstock. I've actually sandpaper distressed all of the cardstock. So I've used sage cardstock here and pine cardstock on the outside. And I'm going to be demonstrating that to you today as well. So that is a super fun technique. And I love distressing my cardstock when I've got an outdoors layout that I want to look really kind of rough and rustic it just gives it that sort of, well, it's a distressed look for sure, but it just gives that little bit of an edge to it. And I love the texture look on it as well. And it's not too full on, but it's just subtle enough that you can see the distressed edges really popping out on top of that Country Woods Designer Series paper there, okay? Now, you are going to use 4 sheets of pattern paper here, okay? And this is where I've decided to incorporate the mix-in paper pack. So I'm going to share that with you today. Now, the mix-in paper pack, for those of you that have not worked with mix-in papers before, the mix-in paper pack is a close to my heart product. And how we used to use the mix-in paper pack is we would have a bi-monthly catalogue with close to my heart. So what I've got here is the May and the June 2024 product releases. So these were the paper collections that Close to My Heart would have released had they not closed. So these were already in production. Stamping Up purchased these paper collections and they have made them available to prior Close to My Heart VIP customers, makers, and online customers. So all of the products that you see here in this digital release, we would have had these in a combined bi-monthly May-June catalogue. And what Close to My Heart used to do when we had a bi-monthly catalogue is they would release a mix-in paper pack. And the idea with this mix-in paper pack is it would bulk up and it would coordinate your paper pack in the catalogue. So in this instance, we worked with Enjoy the Ride in May and we are working with Lake Life in June. So these particular pattern papers that you can see here, the colours coordinate with both Enjoy the Ride and also Lake Life, which I'm working with this month, okay? So you could use this paper collection to bulk up any leftover papers you had from your scrapbooking workshop kit for May and, of course, the scrapbooking workshop kit for June. So I'm going to pop out the mix-in paper pack. Now, the mix-in paper pack has only 6 sheets of paper in here, but the paper is double-sided, right? So you can see here I've cut the zip strips off. It's got mix in May, June, and then it features the colours that it coordinates with the cardstock, which you can also see here in this digital brochure. So you can purchase this two-tone cardstock and it will coordinate with this paper packet. If you are attending my workshops in person, then I have those there on hand as well for you to purchase as individual sheets, or you can buy whole packets of the one colour. And this is where the two-tone cardstock works great for the technique that I'm going to be sharing with you today, because when you distress sandpaper your cardstock edges, because it's two-tone, but also, it's mostly the white core, you do see that white core in the cardstock, which looks pretty cool. So we've got our mix-in paper packet. So you only get 6 sheets of the mix-in papers. But the cool thing that I love about this is that the paper is actually a different design on the other side. So if you're wanting to do a double page spread, then this is not going to work for you unless you purchase 2 packets of the paper, because you're not going to get 2 sheets of the same color paper in the pack, right? But in this particular instance, where I have used this layout for my scrapbooking pattern, because I need 4 different paper patterns, I can basically cut the paper down, but instead of cutting 4 different sheets of paper, I can just use the design that was on the back of that particular sheet of paper. So this is where I've been able to use this stripe pattern here. We've got another striped pattern here, and then we've got this orange pattern here, and then another one as well. So that's the really cool thing here. I've only actually cut 2 sheets of paper, and I've just been able to turn the page out, turn the paper over, and then use that in my scrapbooking layout. So the mix-in paper pack is super versatile. It's great if you want to use lots of different patterns of paper on your scrapbooking layout. But if you're wanting to do a double page spread and you need the same sheets of paper, then you do need to invest in 2 packs of the mix-in papers. So that's my little tip there for you. So I've cut the pattern down. I've doubled everything for paper 2, 3, 4, and 7. And then papers 5 and papers 6 are cardstock. So this is where I've used the large square of cardstock here, and I've used the smaller bit of cardstock here. And the pattern paper down the side here. So there wasn't enough pattern paper left over from the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop kit to be able to get all these extra squares, okay? So you needed 1.5 inches, and we only had 1 inch strips of leftover pattern paper from the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop kit. So I have used some of the leftover papers from my Scrapbooking Workshop kit here and here. Just cut them down as strips. That paper doesn't run the whole way underneath there, but it gives that effect that it does. I've used the pattern paper here and here from the mix-ins, and then I've had to bulk that up with cardstock, okay? But there were a lot of stickers left over from my Scrapbooking Workshop kit Lake Life. So I've been able to use the stickers on my layout. And I also purchased a packet of the Lake Life die cuts. Now, this particular die cut pack has already sold out, unfortunately. But if you're purchasing the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop kit, which I'm going to share those layouts with you at the end of this video, then you are going to get a sample of those Lake Life die cuts here in your Scrapbooking Workshop kit. You will use all of the die cuts that come in this kit, but you are going to have a lot of leftover stickers, not much pattern paper left over, and you will have some cardstock left over as well, okay? So you will see me creating with Lake Life for the remainder of this month, and probably also more of the mix-ins and also this Country Woods paper, because the Stampin' Up! Country Woods Designer Series paper just goes so beautifully with these Lake Life stickers. You can see there's a lot of stickers left over, and I'm already thinking about what I can use these stickers for on some upcoming layouts. You've got lots of sentiments here left over. You've got a couple of really big title stickers left over. And I just want to give you some tips here as well. So one of the things that we talked about when Lake Life was released, I really encouraged my customers, audience, and scrapbooking community not to get too fixated on the word lake. So obviously the whole lake culture is much bigger in North America than it is here in Australia. But one tip that I have actually done with my Lake Life sticky here, there was a big sticky here that was left over. We didn't use this on the Scrapbooking Workshop kit, and it said the best days are spent at the lake. And what I've done here is this was one of the die cuts that was in my Lake Life die cut pack. I've actually just cut that in half, and then I've stuck it over the top of the word lake, and then I have used my brand new Stampin' Up! Mini alphabet dies. I actually demonstrated this last week, so you can pop back and watch last week's live, or the recording of that I've uploaded to my YouTube channel. So the thing I love about this mini alphabet die set is it's going to cut out lots of alphabets, letters, and then I've ended up with this little baggie of all these leftover letters, and I've used them to create my word river. So I've stuck the die cut over the top of the word lake, and then I've pulled out the letters that I'd pre-cut in White Daisy cardstock, and I've just stuck them over the top there, and I have to say it looks pretty cool, okay? Now, you will see the word lake threaded throughout the pattern paper. It's not that obvious, but that's just a little tip for you with these stickers here. Life's better at the, I could replace that. I could actually stick some cardstock over the top, or one of the alphabet bunting die cuts, and we could replace this with beach or river. The same way here, we've got sun rays, boat waves, lake days. You could replace that with river or even beach. And I'm going to play around a little bit with this here as well, okay? You've got come on in, the water is fine. You have got some trees in the background there, but you know what? Like, just, you don't have to look that closely that it's pine trees and not gum trees, right? And so I just kind of say to my girls, don't get too fixated on that kind of stuff. No one's looking through your scrapbooks going, oh my gosh, these photos were taken at the river and it's a Lake Life pack. It's not that big a deal, right? And if it is for you, because I know some of you, like, you know, like me, I wanted to show you how you could cut this out and you could mix that up and you could change the wording of that, okay? So let's get into some little tips. The first thing I want to show you is how to cut this square out of the back of your pattern paper, because this is one that I have already done. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to grab this 12 by 12 sheet of paper from my designer series paper pack, and I'm going to cut this down because I've already got some cut down that I used on my scrapbooking layout last week. So you guys might recognize that, okay? Now I need my paper trimmer for this, and I have invested in the new Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer. I love it. It's got rubber feet on the bottom here, so when it's on my workbench it stays nice and secure. The ruler extends out. If you've got a paper trimmer that you invested with me, then of course you can keep using that. You will need to source your own blades now because I won't be stocking those particular blades. So the blades are sit inside the ruler of your trimmer to cut your paper. This ruler here actually locks in like so. So a little bit different to the paper trimmers that we were using before, because you can't lift your ruler from here. You actually need to lift it here because this is where it locks in and keeps that ruler in place. When you invest in this trimmer, and I have to tell you girls, the price point of this paper trimmer is very good. And Stampin' Up! Obviously you get a blade with your trimmer, and you also get a scoring blade that comes with the trimmer as well. I've taken my scoring blade out. So there is a scoring blade that pops in. So I've just taken that blade out because I don't want two blades. I don't want two, this is not a blade, but I don't want two of these in the ruler at the same time while I'm trying to cut my paper. So I've actually taken that scoring blade out. But the thing that I love about this is that obviously you can purchase replacement blades for both the cutting and the scoring of the ruler, which is fantastic. A little bit different with this paper trimmer is you've got inches that run along here, and then you've got your centimeters, your metric that runs along the top. I mean, I know we work in centimeters, you know, just on a day-to-day basis here in Australia, but in terms of cutting, I've always worked with inches for my scrapbooking, okay? So I still do work with inches in that format. So with your cutting of your square, what I did here is you've got your 12 by 12 sheet of paper, right? And the cardstock that was sitting over the top was cut at 11.5 by 11.5. But I want to make sure that that cardstock goes over my pattern paper that I've cut, so it's actually got something to be able to be mounted onto when I put my adhesive around the edges here. I've got a thicker border. So I wouldn't have cut this at 11.5 by 11.5 because it would have just been too tricky to try to map that. So I've actually cut out a 10 by 10 inch square on the inside of my pattern paper. And then I've stuck my 11.5 by 11.5 cardstock down over the top. So I'm going to use this sheet of pattern paper as my example for today, because I've got its sister sheet already cut down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a 1 inch border. So I'm going to end up with a 10 by 10 inch piece of square. And I'm going to be using my guide, my 1 inch guide here on either side, but also the 1 inch that runs along the top and along the bottom of my trimmer here as well, because you've got the 1 inches that go vertically as well as horizontally. And the other thing that I love about these blades, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but there's actually grooves on top of the cutting blade. So this groove here, I can easily line up with my 1 inch, and I know that I'm going to be cutting that square perfectly. So let's give this a whirl. I'm popping my paper in and underneath, and I'm going to line my paper up at the 1 inch, and I'm going to put my ruler down. Actually, no, I'm going to move my blade along a little bit more before I cut that paper, and I'm going to align my blade at the 1 inch that is here, and that's where I'm going to make that first cut. So I'm cutting down like so. I might just lift that up a little bit so you can see. and I'm coming to the mark here at 11 inches, which is going to stop me. So I'm going to have a 1-inch border that runs along the edge here. I hope I'm explaining that properly. Sometimes it's always easier to just see things visually. So I'm lining up my blade there. I'm going to pop my paper at the 1 inch here. So I'm cutting 1 inch in. I'm lining that up with the line, the 1 inch line that's running across there. And then I'm just going to slice this down until I get to 11 inches at the bottom here. And lift my ruler up, and I'm turning around. You can see I've cut that. Now, I've not gone all the way there, but that's okay. That's going to pop out easily enough when I lift that down. So just sliding my blade along to the 1 inches, popping that in, and then cutting that down to 11 inches at the bottom here. If you go over a little bit, it's not going to matter because it's going to cut that square out. You can see here as well, I've gone over a little bit further there, but when I pop that square out, it's going to tear really easily. So I'm lining my paper up to my 1 inch, bringing my cutting blade back up to this 1 inch line here, and then I'm slicing that down until the 11 inch at the end. So I'm going to lift my ruler up and let's see how well this pops out. Oh, look, there we go. I did that one perfectly. This one here, not so. So you can just grab your, you could tear that because it's not going to really matter. But if you want to use the middle piece of the square later on, you might just want to cut that really neatly with your micro tip scissors rather than tearing it. Because if you want to use that square later on another layout, you don't want that bit of paper torn if you're going to see it. So I'm just going to very neatly, oh, there we go. So I've got my frame here, which then becomes my base. Oh, so I've got my frame here, and I can use that way with my wood grain running left to right. I could have it this way, running vertically, and then I've got my 10 by 10 inch square that I've cut out from the inside. So what I'm going to do here is that when I get my cardstock to sit down over the top, I'm going to run adhesive just a little bit along the outside of each of my border, and then I'll get my large piece of cardstock and I would just sit that right over the top, and then that would stick in and grip there really nicely. Okay, so you can see how that's nice and secure when I go to slide that in my memory protector in my scrapbook page. That's going to work really well. So I hope you like that little tip. Some of you might already know that tip before, and some of you might not have done that. Another way that I've seen people cut that inside square out is by using their Versamat and putting their paper on top of the mat, and then getting their T-square ruler and a like a cutting, oh, I can't think of the name I'm trying to use, what I call it for. We don't sell them, so I haven't used that today, but you can use your ruler and then you cut along here. But I'm going to be really honest with you, I find it easier to do it with the paper trimmer. And before, when I've used like a cutting tool against my T-square ruler, sometimes the sharpness of the blade actually slices a little bit of the ruler off, and so you don't want to do that. That's what you've got your paper trimmer for. It's just about making best use of your measurements with your trimmer and making sure you've got the blade in that right spot. So that is my first little tip for you today on how to salvage your pattern paper. Now we are going to do some distressing of the cardstock. So this is what I have left over from my Lake Life scrapbooking workshop kit. Some of the cardstock is extra that I've used. So you are not going to use any of your zip strips on your layout. So I've got all these zip strips now left over to use on other layouts, which I'm really excited about. So stay tuned because I'm going to see where I can use those. But I've got some sage cardstock here. I've got some Glacier cardstock here. I'm just going to use these as my examples. Now, there isn't a sandpaper tool that I found in the Stampin' Up range. So what I would suggest to you is just to pop down to Bunnings or Mitre 10, your local hardware store, and you can actually purchase these little square pieces of sandpaper, okay, just to use for your crafting. Now, when I started with Close to My Heart 11 years ago, this little sandpaper tool kit here with these different sheets of sandpaper, there was like kind of almost like a little nail file or an emery board, and then a little block. This was actually one of the first products that I invested in when I started with Close to My Heart 11 years ago. So I have used this to do this particular technique, but if you don't have a sandpaper tool or a distressing tool, then you can actually just grab a little bit of sandpaper from your hardware store. So what I've got here is my Glacier cardstock and my Sage. I did use the, oh, hang on, no, this is Seabrook. Sorry, ignore that. That's Glacier. This is Seabrook, and this is Sage. So I'm just using my Sage cardstock here. I did use the lighter side of the Sage, but it's whatever you want to do with your layouts. And with my block, what I've done here is I'm just distressing this over the outside of my cardstock, and I'm using my Versamat as a base. And as soon as I've done that, you can see that white core of the cardstock pop up there, and I'm going to go around and do all of those corners. Now, you could use this for your photo mat, you could use this for your journaling box, and that is literally how quick and easy it is to do that particular technique. So you are only going to see the white core because I have distressed that face down. I'm only rubbing off the top of that cardstock there. It's actually not going to rub off the other side, okay? So that's the lighter side there of the Sage. Another way is to actually hold the cardstock and distress that along the edges. However, I'm not going to lie, I found it much easier to do this technique with the cardstock flat on my Versamat and then just distressing the edges of that cardstock with my sandpaper tool. And that is how quick and easy you are doing this. This one's going to be a bit more of a milder distress. Now, obviously, the lighter color cardstocks, you won't see this white, you won't see this white core very easily. But your darker color cardstocks, it will show up a lot more. You could even double mat that if you wanted to. That would look really cool, and distress the cardstock that way. And you could see the white core, really whatever works for you. So that's my little distressing tip for this week's Technique Tuesday class here. So I hope you have enjoyed that, girls, and I look forward to seeing your layouts that you're going to be creating this week. I do just want to quickly share with you the layouts from the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop Kit. So these ones are all finished, and most of my layouts that I have done with this kit do feature photos from the Riverland. So this is layout number 1, where you've got the exclusive fish pattern paper at the bottom. And then I've got 2 landscape 3x4 inch photos here, some portrait ones, and then a 4x6. The optional artistic technique that you're going to do with the Lake Life Scrapbooking Workshop Kit is using your blending brushes and your inks. So I've used both the Acorn and the Seabrook coloured ink pads with this workshop kit. And I have used my blending brushes here. I'm posting a little video today on Instagram and Facebook just showing this technique here. So you're just getting your blending brush and rubbing that around on the inside of your ink pad, and then you are building up that color here on your pattern paper. So my tip for you is to do all your prep work first with this scrapbooking workshop kit. So you're going to cut all your papers first, and then you're going to do the optional artistic technique, which is using the ink and the blending brushes to add colouring. So I've got my brown blending brush there, and then I've got my blue blending brush here. What I did want to note, actually, with this particular scrapbooking workshop kit, because this was created before Close to My Heart was closing, the extra materials in the guide that it says that you need are different to the materials that it tells you that you need in the digital brochure, okay? So I did get caught out with that. So I'm just giving you the heads up on that now. So inside the digital brochure, it tells you here that the featured technique is adding texture using ink and a blending brush. And then the additional products that are in the digital brochure, girls, are the Pecan Pie Classic Stampin' Pad and the Jet Black Stays On Pad and the Glacier Stamp Pad. Now, they've suggested Glacier because there's not a comparable colour. They've done Pecan Pie, which is a Stampin' Up colour, but I have used, as you can see here, Acorn, which you can purchase through the Close to My Heart option with me at Stampin' Up. I've used Seabrook here. So the products that it tells you to use in the actual instructional guide is different to what is in this digital brochure. So this is talking about Distress Oxide inks, which you might have that product because that was a product that I used to sell when I was with Close to My Heart, but that product is not available with Stampin' Up, and that's why I have used a comparable ink with my Close to My Heart ink pads that you can buy through Stampin' Up, or you can just get the comparison colours as the Stampin' ink pads, okay? So when you go through the guide, you can see here, see how very heavy this ink is here. It's because they've used a different type of ink. So it's a very heavy ink. It looks quite dark, and same for the blue as well, a very heavy ink. Whereas I have only just used our water-based dye inks, and you're not going to get as heavy a look here when you're doing the blending unless you want to build that blending up with your blending brush and add ink, add ink, add ink, okay? I prefer the more muted look, to be honest, but I'm really happy with how that particular layout has turned out. So this layout here, again, photos from camping up at Renmark in the Riverland. There's no lake-related stickers or die cuts in terms of words, and then I am going to pop a flip flap over the top of this layout here. So I've got some extra photos here. The kids went kayaking on the banks of the Murray River. Me and Daz sat there and had a nice little afternoon drink watching the sunset, and then we had some family games of Rummy-O, which was really fun. So the flip flap will stick on the top of my memory protector, and it will flip up like this. I've just put my photos in the flip flap ready to rock and roll. So that's layout number 1, girls. Layout number 2 is called Lake Days, and I did print some photos from Lake Bonnie in Barmera, also in the Riverland. We spent a long weekend, a March long weekend a couple of years ago, camping with friends here at Lake Bonnie. So I have kept the title Lake Days. So this is out on Lake Bonnie. We've got all the kids here were swimming and kayaking, going on the stand-up paddle boards, jumping off into the water. Us parents were standing around. It was very, very hot that weekend. I've used the Seabrook ink here and also the blending brush. So I've done all that prep work first. And then we've got a couple of portrait photos here. You can see here there's some blending of the Glacier ink down the left here and on the right. And now this was already on the journal box. I haven't done this. It actually came printed like that, but it does look like that's been blended. So just some really nice photos of Lake Bonnie, a little afternoon walk here as well along the, around the outer edge of the lake. So that was layout number 2. No flip-flaps there, no extra photos to go in here. And this is another Lake Bonnie photo. So we've got deck stocks and flip-flops. There is a Lake Life sticker down the bottom here. If you don't want to have that terminology, don't use that sticker and switch it out with any of the other many sentiment stickers that's on your sticker sheet from the Scrapbooking Workshop kit. So again, we've done the ink and the blending brush along the top here, and then also on this pennant bit here as well. And just some photos in the afternoon hanging out down by the lake, bit of road tripping here. We've got a big lake photo here where we were sitting. And then I've got a couple of flip-flaps that are going to go on top here. So I've got some photos of us, me and the girls, camping at Lake Bonnie. That's going to flip out there. We just went for an afternoon walk around the lake, and there was some, obviously, the RSL sculpture here, and it was just a really beautiful day. This one, I'm actually going to flip this upwards. So a late afternoon stroll around the edge of the lake. Just Dazza and I. This was our first weekend camping away without our kids. So it was a fun weekend, and we had a great time, but it was very hot. Very hot. So I hope you have enjoyed this week's Technique Tuesday class, girls. And I hope you love the beautiful colours in the mix-in paper pack here. It's just so bright and vibrant. I absolutely love it. I hope you are inspired to create with it. I will pop some links in the video below, sharing links to my website of where you can invest in these products as well and have fun creating with your scrapbooking. Thanks so much to those of you that tuned in live. Trudy came along. Hi, Trudy. Hi, Jill. Jill came along as well. Good to see you, girls. I will post our video and put some links in the comment section below. Have a great week, everyone, and I can't wait to see what you have created. Bye for now.